Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is Alex of Coyote Star Astrology and this is my new moon in Cancer video for the new moon on July 20th, 2020, which is a Monday if you are on Pacific Standard Time. But keep in mind you may need to adjust depending on where you are on the planet. Now, doing these reports often feels kind of like doing a weather report, and to be honest with you guys, when I look at the chart for this new moon, it's a bit of a buzzkill. I'm just going to be brutally honest. Yeah, there's some challenging aspects in the celestial skies for this new moon. And whenever we see a challenging aspect, whether it be in our own chart or in our partner's chart or in a forecast chart, we're always looking at how to best work with those energies, how to best balance them to bring them into harmony. So those of you that watch me know that I like to break the charts down this way. I like to see what conversation is happening between these archetypes and try to understand what these archetypes are trying to express so that then we can meet those energies halfway and work with what we can control, considering there are things within our external environment that bring energies forth that we don't always have much control over other than the way that we respond to them. So much like the weather, if it's raining, you want to grab a raincoat. If it's sunny, you want to grab a bathing suit. We want to know how to best approach this new moon. So let's start by looking at the new moon itself there at 28 degrees Cancer. And if we look directly across the chart, we see that Saturn is there at, well, would you look at that, exactly 28 degrees Capricorn. So this is a direct opposition in the sky. And that's pretty much exactly what it sounds like, an opposition. It's two archetypes having a conversation, but they express themselves in contrast, and there's a conflict of interest happening or a polarization of these two energies. So this aspect does bring in this sense of restriction and this sort of gloomy presence, because when we look at the sun and the moon in Cancer and understand that Cancer is about feeling safe and warm and cozy and nourished and loved and secure, and then we understand that Saturn on the opposite end of the spectrum is very cold and harsh in comparison and deals with harsh reality and restrictions and delays and the truth of the times that we live in and the time that we find ourselves in our own lives. Saturn in this chart is kind of crushing the poor moon in Cancer over there. The moon in Cancer looks like a little crab that's retreated into its shell, and it seems like it feels a little scared or a bit cornered, if you will. And so we can be feeling that, and I think we are feeling that as a collective. I honestly, with the sun and moon in Cancer, and Cancer having so much to do with the home space and Saturn having to do with the voice of authority, this whole chart could be called stay at home, honestly. And it's to no surprise that, of course, stay-at-home orders have started trickling in again, and it would not surprise me at all if there was some kind of more finalized, formal declaration about that during the portal of this new moon at the start of next week. So, exploring it further, if this were a chart of a client of mine and they had their sun and moon in Cancer being opposed by Saturn in Capricorn conjunct Pluto, no less, recognizing that the sun is our ability to shine. The sun represents our confidence. The sun rules Leo. So think of a Leo and how Leo has this innate sense of inner confidence. The archetype Leo does anyway. Leo is here to shine in its creative gifts. So the sun in a chart represents our solar plexus, our confidence, our willpower, and our ability to be exactly who we are in full confidence. So in a chart, if this were a client and the sun was in opposition to Saturn, I would probably ask this client, was there some authority figure, perhaps the father figure or an institution that sort of rained on your parade or diffused your shine or made you feel small. And similarly, if their moon was in Cancer, where it's very emotional and sensitive, if the Saturn was in opposition to the moon in their chart, that's a signature that's associated with depression. That's a signature that's associated with definitely feeling somewhat down or having our emotions feel a little bit crushed. So translating this onto the chart that we see illuminating the collective celestial skies, you can see that the collective can be feeling sort of under the boot of authority and having their spirit feel somewhat crushed during this new moon portal. And considering that it's a new moon and that new moons are, they're a new cycle, it's a time for planting seeds, fresh beginnings, fresh starts. It's a birthing. It's a birthing of a new lunar cycle. And this birth, because it has Saturn in such an extreme position, it's a difficult labor. Saturn is blockage and limitation. So this is like a delayed birth, a frustrating aspect. And a new moon is also a seed. So this seed is trying to get through the soil, but it's like pushing through rock. It's a frustrating start. And Saturn is also retrograde. So many of us are just kind of like, it's like treading through really, it's like treading upstream right now for a lot of us. And the second aspect that's been happening over this entire last week, and I made a Instagram post about this aspect directly because I felt like it deserved its own post. I'm going to put my Instagram up there on the screen. So if you guys don't follow me already, you can follow me there. I do lots of astrology on my Instagram, especially my Instagram story. But this aspect, Mercury square Mars conjunct Chiron in Aries. Lord help us. This is a challenging aspect that I have termed big PMS energy. Because when you break it down, this aspect has been responsible for many people feeling very sensitive, on edge, agitated, and not really able to communicate from the best possible place or even think from the best possible place. Because Mercury is our circuitry. It's our inner wiring of our mind, and it's also our ability to communicate what's on our mind. And when it's in Cancer, it's already extremely emotionally sensitive and moody. Cancer is ruled by the moon, which changes a sign every 2.5 days. So the emotions are up and down and all over the place and coming to the surface and sloshing everywhere. So when Mercury is in Cancer, communication comes from feeling. And that's all well and good, but when it's being ill aspected like it is in this chart and how it has been for the last week or so, pretty extremely, Mars and Aries squaring on that space, Mars is aggressive. It's fast paced. It makes things alive. So this has shortened the fuse for reaction time. And like I said, it hasn't had people, it's kind of an immature and emotionally sensitive place to be coming from. And then when we consider that Mars is conjunct Chiron, the wounded healer, which has been with Mars crossing over it over the last week, it's been activating wounds within the collective identity, within each of us individually. When there are Chiron activations in a chart, Chiron activates often places that are hard to see. They're blind spots in the psyche, a wound that we have that's deep, that we may not be completely aware of, that comes to the surface in order to be healed. And with all this Cancerian energy, which is so easily takes things personally, And then with this tender place, our flaws and our shortcomings and our wounds and our traumas all being activated by this Chiron energy, it's been a lot to handle. I think that a lot of people have been not only taking things personally, but also just feeling, to be blunt, like a crappy version of themselves. And, Chiron reminds us that we are still human, that we are still on the human hero's journey of evolution, that we are not perfect yet, and that we try and we grow and we learn, and then we forget and we mess up, and we have to retrace our steps and heal that wound and keep walking on. And it's a really great time to be surrounded by friends and loved ones who can meet us in that unconditional space, so that when this stuff does come up, and if we can be vulnerable enough in that space to authentically reveal, hey, this is something that's coming up for me. I'm seeing something in my personality. I'm seeing something about myself that I'm ready to work on. But I'm not there yet. I'm trying. And also seeing that softness in other people as others are having their wounds, their battle scars and everything kind of show up in the process. The humanness and the fragility of the collective has really been coming up as, of course, Pluto and Jupiter are over there drilling into the secrets and the shadows of humanity. And there's just been this huge purge. And so we look at this chart, and this is a tall order. This is a tall order with Saturn bearing down on the sun and the moon. And we need to ask, what is this chart asking of us, so that we can work with these energies and really show up with them. And so what does Saturn and Capricorn want in each of our lives, as it will be stationing a different part of each of our charts? And Saturn in Capricorn is asking for maturity, discipline, patience, wisdom, acceptance of the task, acceptance of reality. Saturn governs the laws and restrictions of the real world. So you can drive 120 miles an hour on the freeway, but you're likely to eventually get pulled over. And that presence that pulls you over and writes you a ticket is Saturn. There are rules here on Earth. And Saturn, unfortunately, doesn't care that much about our emotions. And that's how this chart looks to me, is the moon and the sun over there in Cancer looking kind of like, like they want a break. They're looking sensitive and emotional and just wanting to curl up and get cozy. And Saturn is over here like, nope, get inside. Can't do it. Can't go here. Can't go there. Can't travel. Stay at home. It's intense, right? So given that it still is a new moon cycle, it still is, regardless of whatever the hell Saturn's doing over there. Don't pay any attention to him. It's still a new moon. So it's still a new cycle. So this is an opportunity to greet the limitation of these times. Greet the emotional sensitivity of these times and all that it's bringing up within our interpersonal relationships, and literally second by second as the downloads come in increasing intensity. I don't know, someone turned the dial up on the download synchronicity lever over the last couple weeks. It's been wild. And rather than letting that energy diffuse our shine, having the wisdom to know that, like the weather, these planets continue to move. These cycles continue to change. The skies will open up again. But when it's raining, you grab your raincoat. And when you're in this space, you go within, you cultivate discipline. When things are in retrograde, you strategize. You carefully consider options, knowing that the time to act will come when planetary bodies move direct, which will come in a few months. But for now, there's work to do. So I really wanted to read you guys the Sabian symbol for this moon because I opened up my Sabian symbol book. This book is called Inside Degrees by Ellias Lonsdale, and I will put the link down in the description box. I looked it up the other day just out of curiosity, and I could not believe how perfect this Sabian symbol is for this new moon. And I think that there's a lot we can glean from this. So Cancer, 28 degrees. The symbol is a tremendous cave on the bank of a river. Inwardly knowing where to go, what to do, how to do it, and where it all leads. You have a special faculty for karmic clairvoyance or sensing the individual and collective destiny territory that must be navigated through. Placed strategically in the molten core of world dilemma to remember how to get it right. Driven by a force of will that is overwhelming. You are guided to be in the right place at the right time for catching the drift of the tide we are all swimming toward. Unconsciously and superconsciously in touch and in tune with what is happening. Consciously walking a tightrope between the heights and the depths and never sure while being sure. Given an engraved destiny invitation to participate to the utmost in collective cycles of renewal and to stay within your place of power throughout. For you have gathered considerable awareness towards this time of decision, and this vertical attunement is a welcome ingredient, one vitally needed. I really like that last part. And this vertical attunement is a welcome ingredient, one vitally needed. Because all of these lessons that have been coming up recently with Jupiter and Pluto conjunct again, just bringing up so much shadow in community and in relationship and shadow within ourselves and having to face these aspects of our identity, and all of this is so necessary at the same time. And that's so kind of obvious when you feel into it. And it's necessary in order to come into the transformation of the self, the new self that must change along with the changing of the times as this subtly tangible new era is being built in the background. As so much is seemingly being torn down, something else is being built. And there's many of us that can feel that and can see that, can envision that. It's not just in your mind. It's real. And all of these challenges are part of that. So I'm sending you all so, so much love. Don't let Saturn get you down. Regardless what's happening out there externally, regardless of what external authority says or thinks or believes, staying in that really sovereign place of personal freedom, shutting the door to the outside world, coming into the safety and security of our own space and our own heart, our own truth, while we wait out the storm. So I love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you would like to schedule a reading with me, I am available for those, and I'll put my website up there on the screen. And if you guys have enjoyed this video, please do give it a like and a share. I really appreciate it. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye for now.